Viewers, are we now really on the brink of World War III? We're asking you this because US President Donald Trump had announced a 2-week negotiation window just days earlier. But as unpredictable as he is always, Donald Trump chose to take the world by surprise once again. In the dead of the night, the US has launched a hammer blow on Iran's nuclear ambitions with massive airstrikes on their 3 nuclear facilities, Natanz, Fordow and Isfahan. Now the US claims to have obliterated all 3 of these facilities, but the focus for the moment is on Fordow, one of the nuclear facilities in Iran that was believed to be out of reach of most of the militaries across the world simply because of how deep under the ground this facility was situated. The only weaponry across the world that could inflict any damage on this facility were the GBU-57 bombs carried by the B-2 stealth bombers of the United States. And that's exactly what's happened earlier today as the US decided to officially enter the Iran-Israel war.
A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime, Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raising-Kane, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them. God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel, and God bless America. Thank you very much.
אזרחי ישראל היקרים, אחיי ואחיותיי, ממבצע עם כלביא אנחנו השגנו יחד הישגים חסרי תקדים בתולדות ישראל. אתם זוכרים שמתחילת המבצע אני הבטחתי לכם שמתקני הגרעין של איראן יושמדו בדרך זו או אחרת. ההבטחה הזו קוימה. לפני זמן קצר, בתיאום מלא ביני לבין הנשיא טראמפ, ובתיאום מבצעי מלא בין צה"ל וצבא ארצות הברית, ארצות הברית תקפה את 3 מתקני הגרעין של איראן, פורדו, נתנז ואיספהאן. בכך המשיכה ארצות הברית ביתר שאת ובעוצמה כבירה את התקיפות של צה"ל והמוסד על תוכנית הגרעין של איראן. התוכנית הזו אימה על עצם קיומנו, והיא גם סיכנה את שלום העולם כולו. מיד לאחר השלמת הפעולה, הנשיא טראמפ צלצל אליי. הייתה שיחה מאוד חמה, מאוד מרגשת. הוא בירך אותי, הוא בירך את צבאנו, הוא בירך את עמנו. ואני בירכתי אותו, את טייסי ארצות הברית ואת העם האמריקני. הנשיא טראמפ מנהיג בעוז את העולם החופשי. הוא ידיד ענק של ישראל, ידיד שלא היה כמותו. בשמי ובשם כל אזרחי ישראל, בשם העם היהודי כולו, אני מודה לו מעומק ליבי. ואני יודע, אזרחי ישראל, שאני מדבר מעומק הלב של כל אחד ואחת מכם. אנחנו עומדים יחד, אנחנו נלחמים יחד, ובעזרת השם אנחנו מנצחים יחד. כלשון פרשת השבוע, עלה נעלה, כי יכול נוכל להם.
Let's go right across to our reporter Priyank Tripathi, who's joining us live from Tel Aviv. Our guests are also with us. Priyank, coming to you first, Iran has responded to these attacks on its nuclear facilities. What really is the situation on ground at the moment? Because we also believe that some of the missiles coming out from Iran's side were intercepted near Jordan. What exactly is the situation on ground, Priyank?
Yes, Sati Madhav, most of these missiles were intercepted, but a few of them, a few of the projectiles have landed in the mosque, which has also been hit, and we are on our way to go and check it. Certainly, it was a state of panic when the Iranian missiles started coming towards Tel Aviv, although those people who were sleeping early in the morning not aware about the fact that it is the United States which has already hit on the nuclear establishment of Iran. They got to know the moment they heard the sound of the sirens, which was heard all across Israel, because the projectiles and the missiles were on its way towards multiple cities in Israel. But we know it for the fact that it is not easy for also Iranians also to keep on bombarding Israel with missiles, because the missiles have to travel more than 2,000 kilometers. So that is certainly something which can be a sign of relief for Israelis. Yesterday, they had a period of prayer period. That's why it was shut. But the Israelis were not working officially yesterday. Today is a day when the work has just started. You can see few of the cars behind me, so people have just started coming out on the road. But certainly the manner in which this attack has happened is a very worrying thing for them. The threat has been coming from both the sides, because we know, Madam, what Donald Trump said.
Priyank, we'll keep coming back to you for more updates from on ground there in Tel Aviv. But let me quickly open this up and take it across to our guests now. We have Sushant Sareen, Senior Fellow of ORF with us. Ashok Kumar is also with us. He's an Associate Professor of Political Economy at the Birkbeck University of London. We also have Adam Scott Belos, who's CEO of the Israel Innovation Fund. My colleague Srinjoy Chaudhary, a consulting editor, is joining us here in the studio. Sushant, let me start with you first. Your response to what really we are looking at, and how is this really going to play out? What really are the options for Iran to strike back? Does it have any, apart from what we've seen over the last few days in terms of sending missiles across to Israel?
So, Madhav, look, I'm not entirely surprised by what has happened, because this is something I've been arguing. I don't know what the end game of America, Israel and their allies is as far as Iran is concerned. And if they have an end game, if the end game is simply to take out Iran's nuclear facilities and then bring them on the table and bind them to an agreement which is really intrusive, that's one thing. But will Iran agree to it? I have a doubt on that. Second could be regime change, but I don't see how they are going to be able to bring about a regime change unless there is some kind of an upsurge within Iran, or a certain faction within Iran takes over power and then agrees to what I said earlier, that they agree to a deal of sorts and complete transparency on whatever nuclear program they have. So that could be the end game. But other than that, I don't see how this really solves anything. Iran can do plenty. I think they have the missiles, and we are seeing, while not many of the missiles might be landing in Israel, but even the ones which are landing on Israeli cities are causing serious damage now. They're not causing any damage in life, but they're certainly causing a lot of damage in property and shaking. It's going to prove very expensive. Second, I think what everybody is worried about is can Iran close the Straits of Hormuz? Because that would impact globally. That would have a global impact. It would block shipping of energy resources across the world, and almost 30% of the world energy passes through that area. How does that affect the rest of the world? What does the rest of the world do about it? And that's a big tool that the Iranians have up their sleeve.
Okay.
Third, what they can do is they can also start targeting the Americans. But I think Donald Trump has kept a window open where he says that, look, I've attacked you, but this is basically to knock sense into your head. You come to the table and let's make a deal. Can the Iranians afford to make a deal after this? I have my doubts, given the kind of structure that is there of the regime in Iran. I would be extremely surprised if they were to say, okay, fine, let's come down to the table, let's end the hostilities, and we will agree. Because Trump also said earlier, total surrender. Can Iran afford a total surrender?
Let me get in a quick word. Yeah, I want to get in a quick word from Adam Scott Vilos on that, because, these are some very, very important points. What are we looking at as the end game in this, Adam Scott Vilos? Because, what has happened now in itself could possibly, send this war into another level. We're already looking at the kind of missile attacks coming in from Iran to Israel, and perhaps this could become a wider conflict as well. Adam.
Well, I mean, this is already, thank you for having me, first of all. It's always a pleasure. This has already begun as a wider conflict. At the start of October 7th, this was the beginning of the Israel-Iran war. And I think it's very important to acknowledge that 2 weeks ago was not the start of that war. It was October 7th. Let's just make that very clear. Second, in terms of end goal, is clearly regime change in Iran. And regime change is going to be necessary for the restabilization of the Middle East. And it's very clear that the Islamic Republic can no longer continue to operate. As a matter of fact, the Shah's
But Adam, President Trump didn't mention that. He just said that it was to take out the nukes, that these strikes were done. The US doesn't seem to be committed to that idea of regime change that Israel keeps talking about.
I think it's very clear, given the coordination that was acknowledged between Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President Donald Trump, including in President Donald Trump's most previous statement, saying that they've been working as a team the entire time, and they've worked as a, quote, team greater than any team has worked in history, unquote. I think it's very telling to the fact that regime change is on the table. I do not think that Donald Trump, given the fact that he has survived 2 assassinations by this regime, wants to actually deal with them. I think it's also very clear that whatever comes out of their mouth is not necessarily what's going to be happening. A few days ago, I think it was about 48 hours ago, Trump said he needed 2 weeks to decide what he was going to do. Clearly, that was misdirection. We've seen leading up to this war some of the greatest political theater and political misdirection that has ever been accomplished in the last 500 years, I would say. I do think that regime change is on the table.
Okay, regime change is on the table is your view. Fair enough, but let's quickly get in some more updates coming in. In fact, we have an update coming